All right, it is a Baldy Wednesday. We are ready for our weekly Baldy Breakdown. Baldy looks like he might be joining us from somewhere south today instead of north. How we doing?
I'm good, guys. I didn't have to fire any coaches or anything today. I just have to react to the news. But the tape was pretty vivid last week. In their visit to New England, and well, not visit, but what they did in front of those fans on Sunday was pretty shockingly bad. So it's not surprised by any of this news here this week.
Yeah, I'm searching for the will to live, so hopefully you can help me find that will today, Baldy.
Baldy, let's do the pie chart here once again. Last week, I watched your breakdown, 4 minutes of it. I highly recommend it to everybody out there. Check it out on Twitter. But let's pie chart this: quarterback, offensive coordinator, and let's throw O-line receivers as your third little pie percentage thing here. How would you break that down?
Pretty much like you just described. Probably, there's a lot of culprits here in why this thing is so ugly and so bad right now. But the coaching is certainly part of it. There's no question. A lot of this offense doesn't make sense. And it did make sense for much of the year. Early in the year, we were talking about Caleb's ready to throw. Nobody's open. Nobody's looking for the ball. That happened on plenty. Certainly, Caleb has not played well. Didn't play well against Washington that first half. He was not good. He wasn't good in Arizona. He wasn't good on Sunday. That's certainly part of it. And then, the receivers, if you're going to run an offense like Shane was running, where it's all these one-on-one routes, well, damn it, win the route. Your quarterback's ready to throw and nobody's open. So, and if you want to have, okay, Caleb, your job is to throw them open, there's opportunities to do that. The effort should be better. If you're going to run a third down play for DJ Moore and run him on ghost motion and flip it to him on the other side of the field behind the line of scrimmage like just about everybody does, well, it'd be good if Keenan Allen blocked somebody, and gave you a chance to make the first down. So there's a lot of culprits here, but I would say a third right now.
Yeah, I have a lot of Packer buddies, and they're with them playing the Bears this week. They asked me the same question yesterday. Actually, Carm qualified to host this show. I actually said Caleb 40%, Waldron 30%, Flus 20%. Because he's overseeing this entire thing.
You got 10% left.
And then 10% on everybody else, the O-line, wide receivers, and running backs, who all need to do their part too. Whatever the breakdown is. The point of this whole thing, Baldy, is that some kind of change needed to be made. Even if it's mostly the quarterback's fault, you can't change the quarterback. You needed to make a move. You need a new voice. I'm curious your thoughts on Thomas Brown and what you think is realistic in the middle of a season that one change, one voice can do, and they better do it quickly because they got their division rival coming to town on Sunday.
Well, the most recent example of this turning out well was what Buffalo did a year ago, elevating Joe Brady and firing their offense coordinator. They were a 500 team. They weren't going anywhere. The quarterback was turning the ball over way too much. They had a completely different design. They went to a run-heavy offense. The quarterback stopped turning it over. They started winning games, and they carried through this entire season. Now, they have an elite offensive line, something the Bears don't have a chance to, they don't have that opportunity to do that. They don't have a star quarterback yet, like Josh Allen is. But he did stop turning the ball over last year with a new offense and a new voice. And they got rid of whether Stephon Diggs was a problem child or not, they thought it was better for him to go away than it was for him to stay. That was a cultural decision. So, it can work. Sometimes you have to do that, and the quarterback and the team benefits. And you hope, and I don't know a whole lot about Thomas Brown. I really don't. I don't know what he's going to be. Like, I know he was with the Rams, so I'm sure he's going to take some of what McVay does, which is different than what anybody else does in this league, honestly, the way that they protect. And I know they didn't play well on Monday night, but just about every coach that has left that nest has had some level of success.
Yeah, for me, Baldy, it's just hard for me to even get into any of this because I'm still frustrated with the fact that Matt Eberflus has a job. You fire Shane Waldron, you fired Luke Getsy, you've had 7 or 8 coaches in the last 2 years, assistant coaches underneath, fired fired under your watch. These are guys he picked for his staff. Keenan Allen just had a quote from Dan Wiederer talking about Shane Waldron. Too nice of a guy. OTAs, camp, we fell into a trap of letting things go and not holding people accountable, and that's a slippery slope. Just professionalism and doing things the right way. Players continuing to come into the media week after week this season saying the details aren't there. This all falls on Matt Eberflus. So I just have a huge problem that we're still sitting here today talking about Waldron, talking about Nate Davis, talking about all this other stuff, but Matt Eberflus is still here talking to the media at Hallis Hall.
Well, that goes above Eberflus. That goes to management. That goes to, the GM. That goes to the ownership. Like, that speaks a lot higher than what, has been done. And so, to your point, you're absolutely right. I mean, some of the decisions at the end of the Washington game are just mind-boggling, and we chewed that up pretty good. And, then just a pathetic performance against Arizona. We know they're a pretty good football team. And then to see Drake May completely outplay Caleb with a team that's not anywhere near as talented as the Bears, and to see them just wipe them up like that, to me, that's the head coach. Exactly what you're speaking of. Like, there's no other person to look at right there.
All right,
boom.
Right, and that's all. I hope you feel better. I'm glad you got it out there, and maybe your day will come this week or by the end of the season at some
I've
point.
been trying all week. Will you please tell Greg they're not going to fire Flus until January?
Well, I mean, they made the coaching change that they made. They could have done what New Orleans did and just fire the head coach, and the special teams coach gets elevated, they win a football game. Stop a 7-game losing streak. You either fire the head coach or a coordinator, but you rarely fire both at different times. So I don't think they're going to fire Matt unless they just completely fall apart here in these 3 division games that are coming up, and the players are all at the podium saying similar things that Keenan just said.
So let's talk about the quarterback a little bit more here, because ultimately that's all that matters here. And Caleb's been sacked 38 times, Baldy, which we're 9 games in. I'm taking a little bit of a liberty here. But if you doubled that half the season through 76, that ties him with David Carr, 2002, number 1 overall pick. Never turned out to be the way that he was supposed to be because he got smoked too much his first year, and, it obviously impacted him. So do you think the Bears run the risk, and this conversation's moving around, ruining Caleb because the protection is this bad and he's starting to look more and more skittish each week, and maybe you have to get him out of there while you figure out what this looks like? Flus talked today about he needs the reps he needs to play. I would agree with that, but I also don't want to see him get killed at the same time.
Well, honestly, I don't think the offensive line played bad last week. I mean, the first play of the game is a sack. It's max protection. Like, they've got 8 guys protecting. He's standing there on the C. Like, it's the cradle of love. You can't get a bigger, wider pocket. And he's got 2 receivers going down the field. And I don't know, like, you can only hold the ball so long. Eventually, somebody in New England is going to get to the court, and he takes a sack. Like, the play is designed to take a shot down the field, and he didn't take the shot. That's not the offensive line. It's the quarterback or the receivers. He doesn't see them getting open. So, Roma Dunze on 3rd and 10 runs an 8-yard route and drops the ball. Like, is that the quarterback? Like, catch the ball or at least run the route to get the first down. There's so many broken things in the whole offense. But to your point, look, the Giant quarterbacks last year got sacked 85 times, all 3 of them. But yes, you do run that risk if he's just, and maybe some of that is taking place, and maybe that's why he's just a little frozen, a little lost right now, not playing well, like he just doesn't trust it. That happens. I don't know. I can't speak for Caleb right now. But, yes, I do think that you can ruin a quarterback if you just get him. But, Troy Aikman was 1 in 15 his rookie year. I saw the Eagles sack him 12 times on Thanksgiving. Troy's in the Hall of Fame. So if he's the right guy, if he's wired the right way, then I don't think that can happen.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Like, the play that you're talking about, go watch Baldy's breakdown in the cradle there. He could have thrown it to, I think it was DJ,
Yeah.
and Maybe it works out. Maybe it's picked. To me, it's like almost looks like they coached the aggressiveness out of him. Like, just throw. I don't care if it's picked off. Let's see if you can put it there. It feels to me like they've kind of made him so worried about turning the ball over that he's holding on to it.
Well, look, I mean, he's frozen. I mean, we saw the same thing from Justin Fields last year when he literally couldn't pull the trigger on a pass. We went through it last year. But, on that play, like, I don't have any problem with the call. Play action, max protection, take a shot. But take the shot. At least tell the Patriots that we're going to, get your safeties backing up. Get them thinking we're going deep today. Like, no defensive back wants to get beat on the second play of the game. But you can't hold it and take the sack right there. So, I mean, I'm sure they have a walkthrough, and maybe with Keenan Allen saying these things they don't. But most teams walk through the script on Saturday morning, and this is what if this is what they do, if the safety is in the middle of the field, go to DJ. If they do blah, blah, blah. Like, if they're in this cover 2, then check it down to the back coming out of the backfield, whatever. But the worst thing you can do is just sit there and take a sack in that situation. So I don't know what his coach should do, but he looks a little frozen right now.
Which, again, is why I think you have to just reset the message, reset the messenger. Like, whatever it is, it wasn't working. We talk about the Packers a little bit. Everybody okay with that? They do play. Yes. They do play Green Bay this week. I'm sorry to tell you, Greg.
Not interested.
It's Packers week. Any chance? Do you see any path? Well, because I would have told you if they didn't make this change that they were about to be demolished again. The way you watched the film, I mean, everybody saw what it was against the Patriots. Is there any chance that with what they still have on defense, a spark on offense, that they can beat a team like the Packers this week?
Well, they've had 2 weeks to get ready, to get healthy, to get Jordan Love back, because he hasn't played great. He's thrown 10 interceptions this year. He's been in and out of the lineup, with some injuries, week 1 and then a second one, and Malik Willis has played well. They look like a really well-coached football team, though. Like, they know what the offense is. They got a variety of ways to beat you. Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs, all the rest. Jaden Reed looks like the go-to guy, but Romeo Dobbs. They've got a ton of different weapons. The coordinator change that they made on defense was the right change. I mean, I think they still lead the league in takeaways. They got a ton of interceptions right now. The safeties are all playing really good. But they're not great up front. Rashawn Gary doesn't look like a monster. They traded away Preston Smith. I think they got a chance to kind of hold up right there and to go toe-to-toe with them. They don't look like a dominant football team to me. So I think a lot of teams have gone up there. I thought, Houston had a chance to beat them. I thought Jacksonville had a chance to beat them. So they look beatable to me. But you're going to have to, obviously what they've done the last 3 weeks isn't going to be good enough to beat the Packers.
No, before we get you out of here, Baldy, before I forget, I just want to tell you the Baldy Breakdown in the pool is my favorite thing on the internet. We need more of that. It was fantastic. Yeah. Thank you very much for doing it.
Yeah, appreciate that, guys.
You got to check his pool video out, Hogue. It's the guy. Are
they better than Braggs' hot tub?
Yes, they are. Those were good though. You should get back to doing that.
I had some pool videos too in my day.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Usually in the dark at 4 a.m.
Yeah, 4 a.m. pool videos before I go to training camp. Baldy knows the vibe.
Yeah, I know. I was there for some of those nights. Thank God, social media wasn't around back then.
Yeah. Baldy, where are you headed this weekend?
Oh, I'm going to see the best game of the week. I'm going to Pittsburgh. I tell every football fan, and this is no knock on the Bears or any other team, but I tell every football fan out there, if you get a chance to be on the sidelines for a Steeler-Raven game, it just sounds different than any other game played all year. The level of violence, the sounds of the hits, just how those two teams play each other, it's like nothing else like it. It feels like Singletary should be out there and McMichael and Hampton. I feel like it should be black and blue. It should just be Buddy Ryan should be on the side. It's just different, man. I can't wait.
You know what? I'm glad you just said that, Baldy, because this just reminded me of another thing that I should ask you about. This was our friend Jared Payton here in Chicago, who's Walter's son.
Yeah.
He tweeted this yesterday, and it's a little bit long, so I won't read the whole thing. But
Okay.
this is coming from a source where I think this matters. And he says, after watching the Bears film, I have to ask, who are we? We're the charter franchise of the NFL, built on pride, tradition, relentless passion. But yesterday, like so many days, weeks, months, years before it, none of that showed up on the field. The offense looked uninspired and broken with a glaring disconnect that's hard to ignore. Rinse and repeat. It feels like this team has lost touch with what makes Bears football great. In 85 and 06, we knew exactly who we were. A punishing defense backed by a powerful offensive line that could run the ball down anyone's throat. It's not complicated. What you just said about the Steelers and Ravens games, like, just made me think about, like, what Bears Packers used to be, right?
Yeah.
Like, NFC North football, where it sounds different. Like you just said, it looks different. You know what it is. I'm just curious what your reaction is to what I just read to you from Jared Payton.
Well, first of all, I what Jared said, I felt when I was studying the game. Exactly what Jared said. I said, this looks broken. Why isn't DJ Moore diving for a ball on 3rd and 3? It looks like it's right in front of him. What would make a receiver not dive for that ball? Like, so I completely agree with Jared. But here's the difference. Like, the Steelers are starting a rookie center and a rookie right guard. The Ravens replaced 3 starting offensive linemen from the number 1 seed in the AFC a year ago, and they look just fine. Like, why is it that some teams can just rebuild the most important parts of a team the way the Steelers and the Ravens just did this year, the way the Lions have done, the way the Bills are doing, the way the Chiefs did after a bad Super Bowl loss? They said, this is our problem. We're going to fix it. Here's what we're doing. And they fixed it. And here's the Bears with this group up front. And we're like, I can name you every single starter for that Bears 85 team and that Bears team in 2006. And I can see Lance Briggs and Urlacher just stuffing the run play after play after play. Like, why is it that I can remember those from 40 years ago and I can barely tell you who's starting for the Bears right now?
What? I mean, I have the answer. It's called culture. It's culture. Because in 85, Buddy Ryan and Dan Hampton and those guys wouldn't have put up with crap. And in 2006, Lovie Smith and Olin Kreutz and Roberto Garza, they didn't put up with that crap.
No.
And now you get all the way up to this year, you need tougher coaches. You need players that will hold each other accountable and get in each other's faces once in a while. And that's what I've been preaching the last few days. You talk about the Steelers, culture. Mike Tomlin isn't putting up with that crap. Get in somebody's face.
So listen to this. So I was in Latrobe this summer. The last 2 summers I've been in Latrobe. And it just happened to be on days where they call it it's a fully padded practice. And the first drill in the practice is what Mike calls 7 shots. So you get 7 shots from the 1-yard line going into the end zone. And there is TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Najee Harris. It's full blast. It's literally Buddy Ryan would come out of his grave to go watch it. So I'm watching Sunday's game against Washington. There they are on the 1-yard line. Here they come, unbalanced. Here comes Power. Here comes the right guard. Here comes Connor Hayward, the fullback. Here goes Najee for a yard. They get the yard. Then it's 4th and 1 at the 44 in the 4th quarter, and they need a yard at their own 44-yard line. And all I say to myself is, this is 7 shots. This is who the Steelers are. They practice this in the summer. They practice it during the week, and they execute it during the game. And to your point about culture, that's culture. And that's why they're able to execute those 2 important plays. Out of all the plays in the game, touchdown throw to Mike Williams to win the game, whatever, they made 2 important plays that were exactly what they do in Latrobe in the summer.
Yep. I mean, you saw that video of them, Russell Wilson getting them to jump off sides, and the entire team, the way they respond, everybody at the line of scrimmage, like celebrating because they caught the Commanders off sides. It was that I was envious of that kind of camaraderie and culture they had there.
How important is it to you, Baldy, to have guys on your team that came from winning programs? Because if you look at a guy like DJ, who I'm not trying to, say anything negative about right now, but he went to Maryland, played for Carolina. And now he's here. Like he hasn't experienced the high level of winning that ultimately you want to get to. I'm wondering how much, and you can point around the Bears locker room and see it's hard to find a guy who can be like a true has won leader type of dude.
Well, I think it's really important. I mean, look, Russell Wilson looks like Russell Wilson in 2019 right now. The leadership, the playmaking ability. They got some young kids, that are still figuring out on the roster. But, Cam Hayward holds you, and T.J. Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick, like those guys, they just let you know. If you're a knucklehead, you're going to, they already shipped a couple of wide receivers out of there. They're knuckleheads. I don't need to name their names, but there's a reason why those guys are gone. You can get this weekend, I'll tell you right now, the captains for Tomlin are going to be Patrick Queen and Deshaun Elliott. They were drafted by the Ravens. Elliott leads the team in tackles. Patrick Queen had his best game last week. They're both looking at their former team, the Ravens. They're going to be out there calling the coin toss on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I think there's been a lot of truth that's been said here in the last 5 minutes. I'm glad it came up because that's the Bears once were that type of team, and they just clearly aren't right now. Baldy.
Look, Iron Mike Ditka. There was only one Mike. Him and Buddy, they clashed, but they probably should have won more Super Bowls than they won with the talent that they had. But the one that they won is there's still a good reason to keep celebrating that team.
But you know what? This is where this becomes a much bigger discussion because there are some inside that building right now who don't believe that George McCaskey would ever hire another coach like that, like a true alpha, like a Dan Campbell.
Bill Belichick.
Mike Tomlin, maybe Bill Belichick if you want to throw him in that type of. I think Bill's a little bit there, but basically the same. Like, and until they're willing to change that, I don't know if it'll ever go back to that, Baldy.
Well, the Detroit Lions they were still celebrating the last championship team in the 50s with Joe Schmidt up until a couple of years ago. They went through a million coaches to get to Dan Campbell, but the right guy. And that team, you can throw 5 interceptions in a game on the road against a good team and win games. Like, there's not one guy that doesn't believe in what they're doing as an organization right now.
They stuck with him, too. He was 4-16.
Yep, and they embody the personality of that head coach. Baldy, thanks so much. We got to go out to Hallis Hall right now. Appreciate it, as always. We'll talk to you next week.
We all silly like the mayor.